So what you're seeing here is the final finished product of how to get the EXIF data out of your photos in SharePoint. And as you can see here, we've got the file name, we've got a picture URL that we can use to link back to the actual photo. We've got some creation time. We've also got where it was created. And if you scroll over to the right here, we've got the actual address, latitude, longitude, and altitude, all taken from an iPhone. So what I'm going to take you through today is how to actually get to this data. And this was actually requested by a reader, so I'm going to take you through the process now. Okay, so first off, we're going to start with a new source. And what I've done here is I've already loaded all of my data into a SharePoint shared folder. So here we go. I've got these files here. I've got a bunch of other stuff in here too, so I'm going to have to filter these things out. But essentially by uploading these and waiting until the tags appear, we know that the OCR process I talked about in the last blog post has run on this. And one of the things that it will do is that as it processes photos, especially photos that have been taken with a mobile phone that has GPS enabled, it will be able to read the extended image format, our EXIF data, and get all of that information out of there. So what we can do is upload these into SharePoint, let it do its OCR magic, and then we can mine this data to use it in a dashboard. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead, I'm in the query editor within Power BI desktop, and I'm going to go to New Source, and I'm going to go to More, and we're going to go to the SharePoint list connector, which may feel weird, but we talked about this last time. Because this information is stored in the list part of the information for a document folder, you have to go here in order to get to this information. So we're going to go to Online List because we're in Office 365. We're going to hit Connect. And note this is a Office 365 only feature at the moment. It is not available on-prem. And I'm going to paste in the site URL. Here we go. And click OK. And then I'm going to pick my documents library and click OK. And you should see a bunch of stuff come up. In fact, the first three steps you're going to see are the three standard steps that it writes: source, navigation, and it renames the duplicate ID field. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to create some filters. And I want to filter on a few things because essentially I want to ensure that there are media tags, because otherwise we're looking at stuff that isn't a document. And there is this field here called Media Service Auto Tag. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to just say I don't want anything that's null. And so we're going to start with that. And I'm going to say not null. And also, just to keep this simple, I'm going to also take another filter. I'm going to look at created, and I'm going to say after or equal to, and then I'm going to look at today's date. That way we're just looking at the stuff that I just uploaded. And click OK. You'll see the list shorten tremendously. And we've still got a lot of stuff going on in here. So I want to essentially get to a few pieces of information. So in order to create that clickable URL, or the URL that's actually going to retrieve the photo, one of the things that I need is a full URL. And one of the things that we need to create that URL is the actual site information. And that information is stored here under the first unique ancestor secureable object. And in order to get to that, we have to expand this. And once we expand it, you see a whole bunch of stuff in here. And really what we're looking for is the URL. So I'm going to take that out. I don't want to select everything, it's just a lot of information here. And I just simply want URL. If I click this, we get our URL, basically the top of the web address that we need for this. Now we've got a ton of stuff going on here, and there's a lot of columns, it's kind of hard to see what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a bunch of other columns here so that I only have the things that I really care about. And so we're going to keep the first unique ancestor securable object that we just retrieved. And I'm going to scroll over here and we're going to look for File. And we're going to do Control click to select it. And then we're going to look for Properties. So another Control click there. So I've got three things selected. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click under Remove Columns and say Remove Other Columns. So basically, it gets rid of everything else for me other than what I selected. Makes this a whole lot easier to work with. All right, now the first part we're going to do is I want to merge the two columns. I need to essentially expand the file first. And I'm going to get a few columns out of here so that I can see what I need to get from there, so I can create my URL. Also, I want things like the created date, the last modified date, and the name of the file. I think these are all things that we definitely want to have long term. So I'll go ahead. I'm going to sort this alphabetically. Oh, it's already sorted for me. Awesome. But it says I need to load more. All right, and I'm going to uncheck this. And let's see, we want name, okay, name, server, relative URL, time created, time modified. Thankfully, they're all next to each other. Makes it very easy to select. Go ahead and click OK. Let's see this expand. And so now what I want to do is I want to create my URL to my actual file. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to click it first and then do Control click for the server relative URL that we just expanded. I'm going to go to my Transform tab and I'm going to click Merge Columns. Now note, because this already has a leading slash, I don't need to add anything else. So when I click Merge Columns, I'll simply say I don't need a separator, and I'm going to call this picture, if I can spell today, it'd be dangerous. There we go, picture URL. Click OK, and so that creates our URL. So when we apply these changes, we'll later mark this as a picture URL, and it will actually render the photo for us. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to look at the, got that down, we want to expand the properties. And what we're looking for is a specific field that will contain all of the information that we need to get out of there for the address and for the location. And this is called the media service metadata. This is stored under properties. We're telling you this because the properties method tends to be consistent across OneDrive, custom document folders, and the standard document folder. We saw some variation in the last blog post, so this should make it consistent for you. So now if we go to properties, and I'm basically going to uncheck everything because I really don't need it. And we see metadata, our media services metadata right there. And go ahead and click OK. And so this is going to expand it. And if you click on this, you can see what is in here. There's a whole ton of information. And one of the things that you'll note is we have address here in the JSON, and we have location. So location has the latitude, longitude, and the altitude of where you took this versus the physical address. Sometimes having both together is a good thing, especially if you're in the middle of nowhere. You need the latitude and longitude to actually map where it goes. So what we're going to do is, because we know this is JSON, we're going to take this, we're going to transform this, and we're going to parse it. And basically by parsing it, this allows us to break apart the format and get to the information internally very easily. So I'm going to select JSON, and you're going to see here we now have a record. So if I click just to preview the record, it'll show me what's in here beneath it. And the two things I need are really address and location. I don't really need anything else here. So we're going to expand this, and I'm going to untag everything. I want address and location. Go ahead and click OK. And now notice I've got two different records. So here I'm going to look at location. And there's really only three things in here. So I'm going to keep those three, click OK, and you'll see it expands these as needed. And then over here on the media services side, let's see, if look at my notes here because I wrote all this down, make sure we were all good. I really need 4 things. So we have city, state, country, and English address. We don't need a localized address in this case. So the difference is that city, state, and country are all broken apart for us, all nice and clean already. The English address actually gives us the full place format, so everything is connected to each other, and we'll see that in a moment. So go ahead and click OK. And so you see the city here, you see the state, you see the country, and then if we look at the English address, you see the fully qualified address along with things like the street address and whatnot. So these are all good to have. Now, one last thing that you'll notice here, and this is one of the things that eventually causes some challenges in Power BI, is the fact that we don't have data types on our columns. We have this ABC 1, 2, 3, and if you look in the Transform tab, it says data type of any. And if you worked with Power BI for any length of time, any data type is really not a great place to be. So let's fix that real quick. This is easy enough to do. Just simply click on the first column, and then just like we do in Excel, hit Shift-click to select the rest of them. Go to your Transform tab, click Detect Data Type, and it will go through and you'll see the icons change as it properly marks these as the correct data. All right, cool. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to call this the picture library, such, so we know what we're working with. And then I'm going to go up here to Home and click Close and Apply. Okay. Seems to put it on the wrong screen, sorry about that. So I'll just pause for a moment. Okay, so the refresh has occurred. Sorry about that. It was on the wrong screen. It wouldn't let me move it over. But now if we go here to Picture Library, you see we have all of our stuff here. Now, a couple of things that we need to do. First off, we need to check our relationships just to make sure it hasn't created some, and it did. And just like in life, most of your problems in Power BI always seem to be relationship issues. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to delete this, because there really is no relationship between the two. They're exactly alike. So I just want to make sure this doesn't cause problems. Second thing is, anytime you're creating a new model, you should always go through your data grid here on the left. And what you're really doing is you're finalizing your data. You're going through, you're categorizing the type of data, you're ensuring that the format is correct, that sort of thing. So if we look at this, like picture URL, for example, I want to go to my modeling tab, and I actually want to mark this as a, expand, there we go, as an image URL. So by doing so, this tells Power BI to actually render the image that is at this location. Then we're going to come over here. Of course, one of the challenges you may have in this particular case is the information would really need to be accessible by the Power BI service. So theoretically, we may just want to make this a web URL so we can click it and open it because we have access to it. But your mileage may vary. You can pick either one. So I think we'll try image URL. If that doesn't work, we'll go back to web URL, and then we can change it. And that way, when you click it, it'll open the photo. For time here, the thing I want to change is the fact that I really don't care about the actual time. I just want the date. So we're just going to change the format here. Again, this is a nice step to do for your users because it eliminates the need for them to do any formatting later on. You're doing it once and you're done. Here we have city, so we need to tell Power BI that this is a city. Here we have state, so let's tell Power BI that this is also a state or province. And then country, we're going to tell it is a country, not a county, a country. And then here, for English address, there was something called place. And what place refers to is the fully qualified address. So you want to classify that as the English address as place. And then as we get over here to latitude and longitude, these are also categories. So we're going to call this latitude. I like the way it automatically filters the list to which you can select, longitude, and now we're all good to go. So what this will do then is that if I drag in, I probably should have renamed my columns, but I didn't. But if I were to drag this in, like so, it should start to get a I'm starting to get, a graphic here. It's trying to do a map, and we did file name. And let's see, it's not very happy with me for some reason. Let's do this. Oh, I don't know why I did average. Don't summarize. There we go. Ta-da! So sometimes you can get these interesting problems. One of the ways that you can fix that, by the way, is if you look at what happened here, we go back to our longitude and our latitude columns. If you look at default summarization, it's set to sum because it thinks it's a number, it should be able to be summed. Instead, we want to change that to don't summarize because these are really more identifiers. And you'll see this also with like record IDs, customer IDs, that kind of thing. And so if you simply change this to don't summarize, then whenever you drag them into these locations, you won't have that particular issue happen. So again, this is just an easy way to prevent problems later on. And here you can see where these things were taken. So if I went here and I created a table, like so, and I put in the URL, it may or may not show it to me. Nope, it doesn't show it. So here, let's do this. We'll go back to here. We will instead change this to a web URL. And then go back. And so I get this lovely URL that doesn't look very pretty. So we're going to change that. I'm going to go over here to the roller brush format tab, because unfortunately we have two format menus. We have one here and one here. So this is the roller brush menu. You look for URL icon, and I'm going to turn this on. So now we get the Windows 10 standard icon. If I click this, I should actually see the photo. In which case, what I see is this. Just took a random photo of a street sign. If I wanted to see what was available here, what did I take in this location? It should filter it for me if I just behave. And then click here. And now you can see this is a street corner. Let's try this one. And you might recognize this particular one, being it's Microsoft. This is the entrance to the main campus. Never been here. It's raining today, so anyway, we took these a little bit earlier. But anyway, now you can see how this could be used in a situation where maybe you have a business or service where you're doing inspections. You need to show where these photos were taken. You need to tie them to other data, maybe service data, that sort of thing. But also too, if you were just out on vacation, you might want to take a look at this and see how you can use this information. So hopefully you found this to be interesting, useful, and an extension of our previous OCR blog post, and that you're going to take this and go do some amazing things. So if you have any questions or comments, please post them in the comments below, and we hope to see you on the next post. Thanks.